Good morning. It's Monday morning, December 6th. It is the last month of 2021. So amazed that we have gone through 11 months so quickly this year. Even as though this year has been kind of an odd year, it just seems like the year has flown by. So let's jump in this week and talk a little bit about some market stats. And one thing is, this is the first full week back after Thanksgiving, and we did see a nice rebound in business. So let's take a quick peek inside here and see what happened this week here. So this week's top story, I had predicted last week that we would hit 16,000 closed sales as of the end of November, 1st of December, and I did hit that. We are currently at 16,000, a little over 16,200 as of today, but as of the end of the month, we actually did hit that 16,000 closed sales. To give you perspective, let's go to the next slide here. You can see that in 2020, we closed 16,490 sales. This is represented in the blue. And over here to the red shows we're at 90% toward our goal of 18,000 closed sales. We're going to hit probably this week, we'll probably hit last year's closed sales at 16,490 as sales come in from late last week and over the weekend. But we're still about 1,751 away from hitting that 18,000. And it's looking like it's going to be pretty bleak for us to hit that. It's going to be awful tough for us to hit 18,000, although I will say that we'll probably hit that after the end of the year. And what I mean by that is that the number that I record as of December 31st will probably not be 18,000, but as sales come in that were not recorded prior to the end of the year that were actually sold in 2021 will actually put us closer to, if not over, that 18,000 goal. So I'm not giving up on 18,000. We talked about that last week. So anyway, the next topic here is our review compared to last week. And, like I said, last week was Thanksgiving, and this week, a year ago, Thanksgiving hit a week later just because of the way the calendar works and the way Thanksgiving falls on the holiday. So there's been some pretty big numbers here changing. And you'll see that here in a second when we look at our year to date or our monthly listings compared to last year at this same time. But this is something we've hit for the very first time this year. We are actually over 1,000 closed sales ahead of last year at this point, as of yesterday on Sunday. So when we recorded the numbers at 16,249, we are over 1,000 ahead of where we were at the same time in 2020. So that's a good sign. Open house traffic is back up again, which is pretty normal after a holiday. So I had said, last week we had talked about how we had really missed the mark on the listings, but this 117 actually represents Thanksgiving weekend last year, week 48. And the weeks are kind of off because that's just the way the calendars work with Thanksgiving. So we actually, if you wanted to look at it backwards, we actually did beat Thanksgiving week last week for the year prior. And this week we were above 230. Still, not up there. We still want to be a little bit higher than that, but as long as we beat last year's numbers, that's going to be good. So we'll see how we rebound in week 49 through 52 here. So this week's spotlight is all about November. Now, I want to give you a little background here. We're going to talk a little bit first about the sales prior to 2021. I think sometimes, we get focused so closely on what's happening this week, this month, today or yesterday, that we don't think to look back farther. And it kind of makes sense for us to look back not only to last year, but also going back to 2009 when I started collecting these sales data. So what this is representative of is the number of homes for sale beginning in January of 2009. And you can see where it, over here to the left, where it goes up through the springtime and then drops back down at the end of the year. And over time, you can see that our inventory levels from 2009 were on a downward trend until about 2018 when it started to go back up. And, our highest listing count in this time period was 5,960 homes for sale back in 2010, which, we'd just love to have even half that amount right now. would be closer to 3,000, would make our life a lot more simple. And we're not quite there. You can see that 2020 was the year where our inventory really started to slide after COVID. And then even 2021, we really never saw any increase in the springtime. It was May when we hit our low count at 1,643 homes for sale. And now we're just finally slowly, gradually coming back. So we just talk a lot about how inventory is on the rise and how we're getting back to closer to some better numbers. But in the overall scheme of things, we're still, 2,000 listings, short, or maybe at least 1,500 listings short of where we really should be prior to COVID hitting. So let's see what this looks like when we look at the sale pending levels. And again, just like on the the for sale inventory, we go back to 2009. The low pending count period started all the way back in January 1st or 3rd or somewhere in there of 2009, January 4th of 2009, where we had only 672 homes under contract waiting to close. And of course, that was fairly typical of, in that time period. But you can see that we, over the period of time, sale pending started to rise through 2016, just like sale listings actually started to go downward till 2016. And then in 2017, 18, and 19, they started a downward trend. And it wasn't until 2020. So 2020 hit. And of course, this little hook right here indicates COVID. This is where the market kind of paused for just a second in the grand scheme of things, and then took back off. In 2020, we had what we thought was a record year, but clearly 2021, at our height, we had almost 4,600 homes in the sale pending status as of May 24th. So I bring this up because we're going to start looking at 2022 and start comparing 2022 to 2021. And the thing I don't want to have happen is that people start saying, well, we're having a terrible year because we didn't match 2021. 2021 is an anomaly year. We're really, I'm not sure that we'll come back up to these levels again in 2022. It's unlikely, just because of the fact that some of the drivers of these higher sales volumes are driven by low mortgage interest rates, which mortgage rates are up. They're going to be up about a full percent going into the spring market. And that's going to deter some buyers, although there's a lot of buyers that stayed off the market that were potential sellers. Sellers stayed off the market because they knew there wasn't going to be something for them without risking becoming homeless. Well, I think in 2022, you're going to start to see some of those previous hesitant sellers start to jump back into the market. And that in itself could cause a snowball effect where we still have the active buyer inventory, the buyers are out there. And if sellers come on thinking, well, this might be the good year for us to find that next home without becoming homeless, this whole thing could turn right around and become a repeat of 2021. So it's hard to say what we're going to do, but my gut just says we won't hit 4,600 closed pending sales in 2022 at one time. I think we'll still see a good year, but it's not, and probably beat 2020, but nothing like we saw this year. These markings here just simply show you the low point of December 31st of 2020 at 2272, and where we currently are on December 5th, yesterday, at 2736. And we have a full, 26 days of the month left in December. So we're going to see this number drop a little bit even more, but probably not down to that 2272. So that's looking back to 2009. Let's now take kind of a look back just this past year and go back 6 months ago to May, which was kind of the peak of the market. And this is that inverted market graphic that we talk about frequently. The orange line across the top here indicates the number of homes that are in sale pending status versus the number of homes that are for sale. We have way, way more homes under sale pending than we had for sale back in May. And, as soon as these two graphics go back across and we have more listings than we have pendings, we'll have more of a calm and what I would consider a normal market. This is the way that the graphics then look through the end of the year. As of yesterday, you can see that even though the sale pending data is kind of mimicking 2020, we're still well behind in listings here. So we probably are not going to cross back over into this market. Will still be inverted going into 2022 and probably stay that way through at least the summer. So it's just going to be more chaos here, unfortunately. Using this same method of looking back, this is the breakdown of months of inventory by price range. And I do this each month at the month end report. So this is part of our month end for November, but this is looking back to May. And you can see that, in May, the majority of the listings here were in the seller's market, under 4 months of inventory. If you recall, last week I said that NAR changed the buyer's market, even market, and seller's market measurement by dropping them about a month, which would have put this 3.6 into a probably would have bumped it up to an even market just a little bit here. But in fact, let's just look at November of this year. This is now taking into account that new measurement here of 3 to 5 months is an even market instead of 4 to 6. And you can see that this is really giving us a better representation of the price points that have probably more of a balanced inventory. In other words, more, the even number of buyers and even number of sellers. And that's kind of the most favored position to be in when you're a buyer or a seller, because you kind of have the confidence of knowing that your home's going to sell fairly quickly. But also as a buyer, you're not going to have to get in there and make snap decisions. You can see that I'm kind of surprised that 400 to 500 price point is there, but it's just barely into that balanced. Really, everything under 400 is still in a seller's market. In fact, 1 to 200 is still just a little over a month of inventory. So the same look back at monthly activity status by listing status here. And the thing I want to focus on here is the green and the yellow. Again, this is that new listings inventory level versus pendings. And this is, this comes directly off of this inverted market here. So the yellow represents this orange line and the green represents the homes for sale. And at this point in time, this is kind of where that snapshot was taken, where we had 1,806 coming in. Now it's not the same numbers, but it's the same kind of percentages there. 1,806 during the month of May and 627. You can kind of see that represents kind of that similar inverted market viewpoint there. And then November, kind of the same thing here. Again, still, these numbers aren't the exact numbers off the inverted market, but it gives you the idea that we still are short of listings versus the number of homes under contract. So the next to last graphics here is the breakdown of inventory by price range. And I thought would be kind of interesting this month is, we're looking at above 600,000 price point. This is just the metro single family inventory. There's, it's just metro, it doesn't take out single family. It's all the property types, but metro above 600,000. There's 159 homes for buyers currently to choose from. So if you're looking above that $600,000 price point, the pickings are not very plentiful unless you get into a couple of categories. And even, looks like West Des Moines and Waukee both have inventory in both of those, all categories, as does Ankeny. As far as under 600,000, there's still 1,521 homes for sale. So this is where the bulk of our for sale inventory is under that 600. And if we look at this same breakdown under sale pendings, it's almost a match for match here. 133 homes are currently under contract above 600,000, and 1,999, just short of 2,000 properties that are under contract. So again, more pendings than we have listings, and the bulk of those are in that under $600,000 price point. So the last graphic before we go into next week's spotlight next week's preview is median days on market. And I thought I'd save this one for the last because it's going to kind of tie into the topic of next week's show, which is going to be talking about how fast homes are selling. The red line across the bottom on this graphic indicate the median days on market. And you can see that ever since late March, early April, we have never been above 10 days on the market. We're currently at 8 days median days on market. And, so we've stayed well below 2020 and 2019 levels. In fact, 2019 tailed off and was heading back up prior to COVID hitting. And so I think we'll see this jump up just a little bit like we saw last year around the last week or so of maybe 2 weeks of December. But then we'll be off to the races again in January. So with that, next week's show is all about asking that same question I asked a few weeks ago. Are homes still selling fast? And I thought this would be a good time to really look back at October and November business and see in those 2 months, that 60-day time period, are we still seeing homes selling quickly, like within days or same day? What's going to be the percentage of homes that sold within 3 days or a week versus those that are taking longer? And so we'll take a look at that, and we'll see, is the pace of sales still up this last couple of months of the year until December 1st? And maybe we'll go ahead and look at this again in January or February to see what December did. But anyway, I hope you'll join me next week as well as every week. Please do take a moment and subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. Let me know any comments, questions, thoughts. I'm happy to take your ideas. We'll be rebranding this a little bit in January as well, getting rid of some of the bumper music, and the graphics will be just a little bit different format. So again, I thank you all for joining me. Thanks again, and we'll see you all again next week. Be careful, be safe out there, and have a good week.